I'm going to start in the backfield, and the more I look at Cam Akers here, the more I like him,
Me
and
too.
the more I think he's a potential, great fantasy pick. He's not going to go real high in drafts. Not that the reference, Greg, but he's like a fifth rounder. I just think that they need help running between the tackles. They need a back with who's used to running behind bad blocking, who could maybe make them look a little bit better on interior runs, which I know you like Akers in that role, but also a space type of player as well, and a good receiver, Greg. I'm really warming up to Cam Akers here as a high impact stat guy for fantasy for the Rams. Your thoughts?
Another high school quarterback. What I loved about Akers, and I really look at this when I watch backs, and I was really taught this by Merrill Hodge years and years ago, but it's really helped me in studying backs, is what I like about Akers is I think he has a great feel for defensive fronts before the snap, because you have to understand who might be an unblocked player. You've got to
Recognition.
understand that. Okay?
Recognition.
And then I thought he also had a great feel once the play started for the fluidity of gaps, because defensive gaps change when the play starts. You can say, hey, this guy has this gap before the snap, but then based on the play and how it's blocked, gaps become fluid and they change. And I thought that Akers had a great feel both pre-snap of understanding fronts and post-snap with the fluidity of fronts. And I really like Akers as a player. I think he has again, do I think he's going to be, the best back in the league? I don't know if his ability is quite at that level, but I think he has a chance to be a really good, solid, multi-dimensional back who has foundation back elements to his game.
The reason why they went to 12 personnel is because of Cooks' injury, and number two, Everett had a break. Talking to them about it, they had to keep Everett on the field because before he suffered that MCL sprain, he looked like he's going to have a chance to be exactly what Sean McVay wanted. Sean McVay drove the train to draft in 2017. It was his call, and you saw how well he did before he got hurt. And then what happened was Higbee went off. Higbee showed that he could be a sort of junior case Travis Kelce. He could do everything. So, John, the question is, are they a 12 personnel team or are they 11 personnel? Because you have to count for getting Kupp on the field.
Well, they'll be both.
There'll be more 12 than usual. There'll be more 12.
I think there'll be multiple. I think for the first time from the start, they're going to be multiple. Now, Van Jefferson, he's very well liked by receiver coaches, but he's got one issue. He doesn't run very well. He's just smart. He's tough. He gets open.
You watch him against LSU, he's separated against their corners. He knows how to run routes.
Okay. Yeah.
He was as refined a route runner in this class. He was, Judy, I thought was the best. Jefferson was just a notch below. Jefferson, you're right. He's not an explosive athlete by any means, but if you put him on, watch his tape against good corners, he knows how to separate. He knows how to run routes.
Coach's son, which helps. Yep.
Greg, if they do go a lot more 12 as we expect, that will likely result in fewer snaps for Cooper Kupp in the slot. I know they can move him around, be creative, but I mean, would you have any concerns if Cooper Kupp is asked to line up outside more? Let's say even 20% more. Would you have concerns about Cooper Kupp's ability to win on the outside?
No, I thought he could do that coming out of college.
Yeah.
So I like Cooper Kupp. I think he can do that from a fantasy perspective, and I can let the other guys address this, but I think that because they'll be in more 12, I mean, 2 years ago, the Super Bowl year, they were in 11 personnel, something like 93, 94% of their snaps. Last year, as I think it was Graham who commented on it, someone did, they started as the season progressed to go to more 12 personnel out of necessity. And given what Higbee did and what Everett is, that might make more sense. The big issue is their O-line. Their O-line's not, to me, is not very good. And Graham did make the point about gap scheme. You might see more of that because they just don't have the athletes to just run the zone run game. They just don't have the athletes up front.
Yeah, sometimes a player's ADP just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Like typically you could be, there's an injury discount here. I have no idea what it is. He's wide receiver 23 by ADP. He finished 12th in fantasy points per game last year, 11th in total fantasy points in 2018. I think he's going to benefit from Brandon Cook's departure. And if they do run more 12 personnel sets, that helps him, that hurts Cooper Kupp. We saw that at the tail end of last season from week 9 until the end of the regular season. Woods ranked second among all wide receivers in fantasy points per game. He averaged 19.2, ranked fourth in targets. Kupp, meanwhile, saw a decline in snaps, decline in target share. It dropped from 27 to 15%. And like you just said, he's due for a massive regression in the touchdown department. He exceeded 1,100 receiving yards, but had just 2 touchdowns. That's only been done 4 other times in the history of the NFL. So just a screaming must-draft player for me. I know Graham's in total agreement. And I think just as a player is just super underrated.